I was praying the words that I pray every day, Lord, open up the gates of Jerusalem one more time for us. And suddenly I realized I have the privilege now to not only say these words, but to act on them.
We don't think about refugees. We think about our people coming back to the land.
This is our commitment to Jews at risk. No matter where they are coming from, we will bring them to Israel.
For thousands of years, the Jewish people were spread throughout the diaspora in countries around the world. Then in the late 1800s, all of that changed, where for the first time in a really long time, Jewish people started coming back to this land and staying. We call that process Aliyah. Let me unpack that idea. For any Jew coming back from any country to this land, they're always going up because they're returning to the land of their forefathers. It is honestly impossible to overstate the importance of Aliyah to this country and to the Jewish people, but today, we're gonna try. I'm on my way to meet Shay Felber, who's the director of Aliyah and Absorption and the overall deputy director general for the Jewish Agency. In short, it sounds like this guy knows a thing or two about Aliyah. Shay.
Shalom, Mati.
Good to see you.
As well.
Good to see you.
Please.
So let's sort of start with the absolute basics. Is this a new thing? Is it something of the modern state of Israel, or does it go back farther than that?
So Israel and Aliyah have gone together even before the creation of the state of Israel. The Jewish state, or the Zionist idea, is relatively new. In the 19th century, Jews have started to feel uncomfortable in Europe. There was a feeling that Jews need a place of their own. And the idea was that this is the time to establish a Jewish state. The first Olim group have gathered together, a small group from Russia, a small group from Poland, Romania, and they have started the first cohort of Jews coming to Israel.
Since the end of the 19th century, there were 5 waves of Aliyah that all took place before the establishment of the State of Israel. These Zionist pioneers built Jewish towns, institutions, army battalions, and more, laying the groundwork for the Jewish state to come. This dream became a reality in 1948.
Eventually, the biggest wave of Aliyah was in 1948, when the State of Israel was created. The Jewish population in Israel then was about 600,000 people. In a couple of years, that was doubled. After the Holocaust, survivors came from Europe and Arab countries, from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Yemen, Iraq, and Iran. Just think about the country, just was born, double its population. Yeah. The second biggest wave that we saw was in 86 and in 90 from Ethiopia. More than 30,000 Jews have came in. And the third massive Aliyah was in the early 90s, where more than 1 million came from the former Soviet Union after the Iron Curtain have collapsed.
And that really is like a huge percentage of the population in this country.
There's more than 1 million Russian speakers in Israel currently. We have decided as a state that every Jew at risk, we will protect, no matter what. And if it will mean that we will bring them to Israel, we will do so.
Give us an example where the State of Israel brought out Jews from a country in a hard circumstance.
Take Ethiopia. In 1991, there was an uprising in Ethiopia, and there was a risk for the life of 14,000 Jews, and the regime was about to collapse. In 48 hours, Israeli Air Force have landed in Ethiopia, and have brought the Olim, what we call a massive air train. It shows our commitment for the Jewish people.
Getting Jews to the Holy Land is one thing. Ensuring they succeed and flourish here is another goal completely. Ultimately, what facilitates both is Israel's law of return.
The law is people should know that we want them. And you don't have to come in to prove, for example, your profession or how much money you have or your age. You're Jew, that's your birthright. In the preparation process, we teach you Hebrew. We are working on your professional skills, education to your kids, and where to live. We will also give them an air ticket to come and live in Israel. It doesn't end when you land and you get your ID card and that's it. On the contrary, we will walk you through that entire process in the coming year that you just arrived to help make it easier for you financially, social benefit that you will get in the beginning, an allowance of money, because we know it's a difficult process, taking your life from one place that you know all about to a new place. When you look about the reasons, you can see people that are suffering from anti-Semitism, people want to take part in the startup nation of Israel. But eventually, there's an element of your Jewish identity.
If you look at the Jewish prayer book, almost all the prayers were written in the diaspora, and many of those prayers are leaning towards
Longing
towards the return on the rivers of Babylon, next year in the reconstructed Jerusalem.
The Jewish state is embedded strongly in our identity, belonging to a place where we can feel comfortable that belongs to us.
Shalom and welcome back. How beautiful it is to see the fulfillment of prophecy just in front of our eyes, the return of the Jewish people. And when we think about the return of the Jewish people to the land, Mati, I think it's one of the biggest proof that the word of God is real.
And not only that, it wasn't a one-time event. We've continued to come back from every
the Jews
corner
are still
of the
coming
earth.
into the land.
Yeah, and I mean, even today, look at the current events that are happening. These recent events in the Ukraine prove that more than ever, we still need Aliyah to continue. We still need the Jewish people to have a home and a place and a way to get back to the land of Israel.
70 years ago, in the war in Europe, the Jews didn't have a place to run to.
Yeah, and now they do. Samuel, let's go deeper into this story.
Let us watch together the miracle of the return of the Jewish people to the land.
We know that the modern state of Israel couldn't exist without the incredible phenomenon of Aliyah. Although many Jewish communities around the world live a comfortable and well-accommodated life, there are places where the Jewish existence is still under pressure, and some of those people want to come back to this land. There are many government organizations and nonprofits that work to bring the Jewish people back to the land, and one of the most incredible ones out of them is the IFJC, that harnesses Christian support for the land of Israel to help the Jewish people return back to this land, but not only get here, also become successful and well-established in the land of Israel.
We're living biblical prophecy. What we are doing here is holy work, bringing Jewish people home to Israel from all four corners of the earth. This is what the prophets saw.
Meet Yael Eckstein, who immigrated to Israel with her family 16 years ago. She also happens to be the president and CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, which was founded by her father.
It was in the early 80s that my father, Yael Eckstein, of blessed memory, he was sent to Skokie when there was going to be a Nazi march, and it was actually the Christian community who came and said, "We want to stand with you." And from that dialogue, they came to my father. It was right when the Soviet Union fell, and there were huge Jewish campaigns trying to get the Russian Jews out. The Christian community leaders came and said, "We want to help. The Jewish community can't do this alone." It's the roots of the fellowship that I'm able to bridge this spiritual mission with the practical, we need to make it happen.
It's not easy to say, here's God's plan, but someone's got to do it. People imagine, oh, just open the gates, they'll come back. It's like, no, it's really complex. There's a lot of challenges here that you never even imagine how hard it is to uproot from one country and move to another, and you're there.
The fellowship has 39 countries that we work with. They're either escaping war and persecution. I mean, many of the countries where we bring new immigrants from, we can't even speak about publicly because it's secretive and they're rescue missions. Almost all of the immigrants that we bring land with the clothing on their back and a bag that they have. So the first thing is making sure that they have a bed to sleep in or a refrigerator, that from the airport they need somewhere to go. And so every single immigrant that lands in the city, the fellowship alerts the city, the social workers, the welfare department. Not only does the governmental bodies know about it, but every Ole is accommodated by a volunteer on the fellowship side, connected to them for 6 months, who will take them, show them around, where's the grocery store? How do I set up a bank account? How do I register my kid for school? What are my rights as a new immigrant? How do I apply for a job? That's where the fellowship comes in. I remember very clearly sitting with then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he said, there was the exodus from Egypt, there was the exodus from Ethiopia, there was the exodus from the former Soviet Union. It made me realize our huge responsibility to be prepared at any second that the fellowship is positioned to safely, effectively bring the Jews out of the land that they need to escape and bring them home to Israel. If there's one thing I've learned, both in faith and studying the stories of the Bible and in practice, seeing today the reality, in a second, reality can change.
And on February 24th, 2022, sadly, reality did change for millions of people. That morning, Russia launched a full-scale invasion on Ukraine, firing over 100 missiles from the land and sea, followed by ground incursions from the north, the east, and the south. Roughly 10 million people have been displaced, which makes up nearly 1/4 of Ukraine's entire population. Among those are tens of thousands of Jews seeking refuge. The IFCJ seized the opportunity to help. They began supplying essentials like food, medication, and shelter, as well as medical emergency evacuation flights, and funded Aliyah at a pace greater than ever before. We had the privilege to visit one of those families who made Aliyah in their new home in Israel.
February 24th, a friend of my husband called him and said, "Stop, okay, why are you sleeping? Get up, war starts." What?
Yulia and Ilya were living a comfortable life in Ukraine when the war broke out, and overnight, they were thrown into survival mode, escaping to Israel with their 15-year-old daughter and Yulia's parents.
It was unexpected, and you have to solve problems, step by step. Okay, what I can do to do the best for my family? Let it be like that.
My friend called me and said that a Jewish agency can help us cross the border to reach Israel. For me, it was like, okay, yeah. And then we understand that it's really so. We live with their help. They rent a hotel and they feed us. It was very helpful. Inside, to feel that you have someone to speak, to ask, because we were not realized what we are doing actually.
But even with the assistance and guidance of the Jewish Agency and the IFCJ, fleeing a war zone was not easy.
First, you have to get to the evac train. It was not easy. Very, very crowded in train. Maybe 300 people in one wagon.
Wow.
23 hours without light.
Because you're afraid of being bombed.
Yes. Children are crying and you go somewhere, you have no idea where and for what money and how long it will be and will you be back or not. And then we came to the border. A forest, a road, and 2,000 or 3,000 women and children.
Trying to cross the border.
Yes, it took us 12.5 hours. You feel nothing because you can't. You can't be worried. You just, okay.
What's the
border is there, you have to go there. You have to go there.
Waiting at the border were countless Israeli volunteers and emissaries, field hospitals, emergency response teams, food, shelter, guidance, and even a ticket to Israel.
We met many open-hearted people on the border from Israel. It's amazing. And we didn't expect that.
Absolutely.
It was like parents. Shh, stop, okay, it's okay. We will help. What do you want? How can we help? Maybe we're lucky. Maybe.
Or blessed.
Yeah.
Today, Yulia and Ilya live with their daughter in the center of Israel. She goes to high school while they attend Hebrew school 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. They receive an income allowance which makes all of this possible and provides them with an easy acclimation period.
When you feel so much help, we said that when we will get work, it will be first time in our life when we will pay taxes and we will feel that we know why and for what. Maybe someday it will help someone.
And that is the point of Aliyah, that every Jew who moves to Israel feels at home.
When we went out the plane and people with small plates, many people, and they said, "Oh, you're welcome home." And I thought, yeah, they are right. I never thought about it.
That words we have to hear. And at that time, at that moment, welcome home.
Hey, I'm Mati Shoshani, and thank you for watching the TBN Israel YouTube channel. We hope this video gave you greater understanding of Israel and her people. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. We'd love to hear from you, so be sure to share what you've learned and ask your questions in comments below. And invite your friends to join the conversation.